Hello everybody, welcome to Discussing Tabletop. Yep, it is of course October 6th, 89th episode. Joining me today is the CarpeDM. Unfortunately I'm unsure what's going on with him, he can't join today. Worm is still on his hiatus, so at least I've got a guest here with me so we can talk about some RPG topics. Yeah, it's a little unusual of a day, but you know what? We're gonna make it work and it's gonna be fun.
Sometimes it just happens.
Yeah, sometimes things just happen. So, a couple of more RPG-related topics today. I'm going to be talking about the new D&D Waterdeep-based adventure that's part of their two-part adventure series. That the next one's coming out, I think next month, or is it later on this month? I have to check that to make sure of it. I want to talk about that WizKids, who partners with Wizards and Hasbro a lot, has put out a gigantic black trophy that you can put on your wall. That's awesome.
That looks really cool.
Yeah, it really does. The Star Trek RPG has put out their Deep Space Nine characters to go along with their next-gen and original series ones. The Kids on Bikes RPG are gone on sale. And the Slasher RPG has like a extended improved edition coming out. And we're going to end up with talking a little bit about a card game, because as usual Steve Jackson Games does things where I'm mixed bag of feelings about, and this time it's the Ninja Turtles Munchkin. So we'll hit on that, and I don't know yet if I'm going to necessarily be angry at them or accepting of this one. We'll see. I've got mixed feelings already. We'll dive deep into it. But let's start with, of course, the Dungeons and Dragons topic, because it's always a fun one. The new D&D book has come out. Basically, it's part of I call it a two-part adventure series that they're going to be doing. That will take you, I think, up to level 20, I believe. It's Dragon Heist for Waterdeep, for 1 to 5. And
Adventure for levels 5 to 20.
Yeah, that's the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Okay, that does come out in November.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow, that's actually really close to the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. So those are coming out after each other. Huh.
Yeah.
I personally would have thought they would have been spread out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Wizards really spreads them out a lot. But
yeah, Wizards just spreads them like crazy.
Accurate. But so getting into this adventure, it's supposed to be a setup for the Dungeon of the Mad Mage, of course, and it's going to be all about being in Waterdeep. So, I mean, the Mad Mage is definitely Waterdeep centric in its own ways. It's the big mega dungeon under there. It's an interesting sounding adventure. It's just it's villainous plot, Waterdeep adventure. I mean, I guess you couldn't keep it simpler than that in a way.
Yeah, 23 levels of Undermountain are detailed herein, along with the subterranean refuge of Skullport.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The Mad Mage, which this is leading into, definitely going to be much more interesting, I think. Because we haven't seen Wizards in the 5th edition sort of incarnation of themselves do a mega dungeon. I've played the Pathfinder mega dungeon. I think it was the Emerald Spire, and that was fun. They did a pretty good job of their mega dungeon that they did. This sounds a little crazier, because that was like levels like 1 to 13, and this is levels like 6 to 20 or 5 to 20. I guess I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it looks like Dragon Heist was Heist 1 to 5.
Yeah, that's your setup. You know, it's like, hey, we're hanging around. We're learning Waterdeep. You know. We're checking out the yawning portal. We're going on a simple quest that's gonna romp through the city. You know, we're working for those famous folks. And I guess an urban cape for 5 levels is kind of interesting too.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe I would like to do this one at some point, but like either run it or play in it. But I don't know if I want to would want to start now or wait till both are out kind of thing. Because my experience the last time they did Mixing Connection was the Dragon Queen series they did very early on, and there were problems. Yes, I wasn't running it; I was a player, and our poor dungeon master was like, "Yeah, they're like telling me about something, and they're not really giving me details. And they're like, you could totally go here," and I'm like, I have no idea what it would be, or like how it's like. He had to a lot more improvising than when I ran Curse of Strahd. So,
yeah, I think Curse of Strahd is a lot more kind of settled as an idea. Curse of Strahd is like a complete idea in one story. There's this creepy manor house, and something's going on in it, and it's up to you guys to figure out what it is and solve all the problems and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Dragon Queen, there's this god that's mad at the world, like usual, and you need to fix it because her underlings are doing stuff.
And you happen to be right there.
And you happen to be right there, and there's so many tropes that you can follow in Curse of Strahd. There's all of the Dracula stuff that always happens. There's all of the and then you can take those tropes and subvert them, so it's a lot easier to figure out what to do there. Yeah. Whereas with Dragon God Cult, at the same time, there's too many options and also not enough stated stuff that's regular that you can just say, oh, well, there's going to be sacrifice. Well, what are they trying to accomplish? Well, I mean, a lot of stuff.
It's some stuff. They're doing some things.
They could be trying to end the world, or summon an old dead god, or create a plague that spreads throughout the world, or take over the cities, or there's too many options, and not enough of them are so planted in the culture's subconscious that you can just say, oh, it's a Dracula. He's trying to control this place, and he's trying to bring back his dead wife. Okay, well, those are basically the two things that Dracula tries to do other than eat.
I mean, there are some changes, like his dead wife was totally going out with his brother kind of thing, which is just...
I'm trying not to spoil everything.
I mean, I think that's enough of a setup that, it's not too much of a spoiler for the actual adventure, at least.
Right.
Still.
And And that's kind of the other thing is, there's so much stuff that happens in there that's sort of standardized as far as goals, but not as far as, how they accomplish it, and how the party is going to block that accomplishment or fix it or whatever.
Yeah. So, I can't find it now, but I recall, and I hope to find it again, that people were talking about how this is one about, I think, dragon eggs or something, because that's an easy way to get dragons in a low-level campaign, someone stole dragon eggs, you're trying to get them back kind of thing. I gotta find that summary somewhere again. I can't find it, because I'm bad with that sometimes. But, I think this one's not... I think this one might work better, because it's supposed to lead up, yes, to our mega dungeon, but you don't want to be first level, so you have a basic adventure in Waterdeep, which is all about getting you in position for that. And I guess it's made to introduce us to the depths of Waterdeep, and that's something that we have canon established of, so we can work off of that a little better, I guess. I don't know. I feel like I will have to definitely play it myself to see if it works better as a multi-part adventure than the Dragon Queen series did. And they've learned a bunch since then anyway, so...
I mean, I'd like to think so.
I don't think any of their adventures since then have been necessarily bad. I think there's been up and downs, like Storm King's Thunder, people didn't like as much as Curse of Strahd. I think people liked Tomb of Annihilation a little better. So we're kind of like, they're at least not hitting a low point? Question mark. I don't know. If your first thing is your low point, I guess you're working better. I don't. It wasn't a bad adventure. It was just there were problems, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess try it out for yourself if you really want to. Right now, it is available. That's the best I can say to people out there. It's interesting because it's a very interesting setting. It's one of the major cities because it's like what? It's like Neverwinter, Waterdeep, and there's another city I think that does get hit not as much, and I'm forgetting it because my brain sucks right now. Oh, Baldur's Gate. Is there any more than that I should really now remember?
Oh boy, I haven't read those books in so long.
Or like pulled out the old like 3rd edition like Gazetteer on like Forgotten Realms, you know.
See, I never had that because we always did homebrew campaign settings. So
my one DM, like I did homebrew, and my one DM loved to do stuff like his own versions of things in favorite. He took this stuff that was in the lore and then evolved it to the next level, which was always interesting. Which I don't mind doing that if as a basis. Like as I've said, working off a basis for an RPG can be really fun. Like I will never write my own Shadowrun adventure from the ground up. I will take a pre-existing one because it's too much work for me and it hurts my soul. I am not that detail oriented. I've tried to do it. I've tried to do it like 3 times, and I got about halfway done the detail I needed, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm growing bored with my own work when my original idea was really cool. I just can't.
Oh man. See, I love running, or I love thinking about Shadowrun stuff because there's always that like. There's that one level deeper, and then there's that level that's deeper than that.
It's too much.
And then there's the real reason that the person hired you, and then there's the real reason that somebody asked that person to hire you.
God. Yeah, it's crazy stuff. And I love the system. I like the system a lot. I like the world even more. It's just that every time I've tried to run it, there's this, like, I think it's a detail barrier that hurts me a little bit. I don't know. I've always been detail-oriented. I've gotten better on improvising a lot of things. But there's this mix in the middle that I prefer. And it sometimes it goes too far. I'm guessing I could probably put together an adventure in Shadowrun that would be very simple, very easy, very fun. But every time I come up with a concept, no, it would never work like that. I always
Do you want to know the secret to putting together an adventure? And when I say an adventure, I mean like 1 or 2 sessions worth of Shadowrun. You put together whatever cool adventure you want to do, and then you figure out why that would be bad. And then you suggest that at the end of the adventure, and then say, okay, that was fun, have fun, like, thanks for playing, everybody. And then that's it. You just tease that there is that deeper level, and then you let go.
No, like, I think the last time I tried to write my own thing of it, I wanted to, because I guess in the modern nerd takes, they don't hint at it as much as they did in the older editions, how Earth Dawn, Shadowrun, and I forget the other system were all interconnected. Battletech, yeah, we're all interconnected.
I think it's Battletech.
It's one of those, yeah. And
or Robotech.
It's one of those, again, I can't remember exactly, but I wanted to get some of those hints about it, like, and that's what I wanted to come with an interesting storyline of it, and it started out all right, but it got harder very quick, and I think it was a combination of things. One day I might get back to writing my own Shadowrun, but entirely different thing right now. I think the reason I brought it up is I don't mind working off of pre-existing stuff. I think when I did Curse of Strahd, my Curse of Strahd story ended up in a crazy off-the-walls place, and it was really fun. You know? It ended up with, like, a PC had lost his character, so he replaced it. So his old character had just become a werewolf, and then Strahd killed him. So I'm like, he's now a werewolf vampire. And the thing is, like, Chris Perkins had, like, tweeted, like, a couple, like, weeks after that had happened that could be possible. And I'm like, boom! New villain for them. New villain. Werewolf vampire, that's your former compadre. That was your cleric. So it's even worse.
Oh. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, but it was good that they could work off it. So I'm curious, like, how much this adventure will allow for things like that also, because I think this might be more focused, I guess, kind of like how you couldn't really go for as much crazy crap in, like, Dragon Queen from what I experienced, you know. You could do,
it was a little more laid out for you.
A little laid out, which
okay.
A laid out adventure is not necessarily bad, but I don't know which I like better.
But if it's too linear, then you're not really allowing the players to
feel like they have choice
themselves so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there are definitely things you can do to force players, but
well, yeah.
That's just, if you make them feel like it's something they really, really want to do, then you're not technically forcing them. They really want to do it, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, for the new one, the Mad Wizard, like, if it's what I'm expecting and kind of imagining in my brain from the, like, blurb they wrote,
mm-hmm.
is that with a big open world under mega dungeon under Waterdeep, it's not going to be so much you have to go and do these things. It's there's all this stuff and there's a story throughout it, but if you don't, like, accomplish this thing by this time, oh well, come back later.
It might be like, like, for whatever reason, Black Cloak wanted these eggs or something, or whatever, you know, and so now you have to figure out a way to break through his dungeon to get to him. So you could go very quickly through the dungeon and find all the ways down, or you could kind of, like, be like, well, what the heck is this over here as we're trying to explore?
I want to clear out this area so it's safe before we come back to it.
Yeah. Or there's the thing is, I can't remember all of, like, I remember bits and pieces about, like, old lore about his dungeon and the crazy crap that was in there, and I know there's a lot of crazy crap in there, so,
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, because it is all 23 levels, and Skullport, which I forgot even Skullport is kind of down there. Whoops.
I'm kind of wondering if a bunch of the people at Wizards watched or read the Angry GM's Mega Dungeon articles. Because, long story, very, 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 very long story short, basically he sets it up so that when players go into it, like, the first part of the adventure has them basically forced into the dungeon.
Yeah.
But then as they go in, they're exploring, they're learning stuff about it, and they're learning that there is a story to it, but it's not urgent to take care of it right away.
Yeah, I think, like, for Emerald Spire, that mega dungeon, the entire plot point was that, there's this group that had sent some people in to, like, investigate it, and they're like, hey, a couple of our people didn't come back. Go in and find them. And so you end up just, like, getting hints of them, and you really don't even find them until way down in there, and then you kind of begin to learn about, like, oh, there's more stuff that we should go deeper than and stuff, too, going on. And that was a very interesting one, because, like, every floor was very different and very interesting. Like, I remember, because that was both my most wonderful and awful character I played in Pathfinder. Because I played a merfolk, using some of the alternate racial rules that you were slightly faster. So I had a 15 land speed on my tail. So I was all about introducing, like, the greatness of, like, the sea to, like, the surface people kind of thing. And then I had the travel domain, which gave me extra 10 speed, so I was faster than a dwarf. So I'm like hopping around my tail faster than a dwarf. And then there was an aqua level, and they were like, I can
Singing
swim
under the sea.
Yeah, and I'm like, hey, look, hey God, I can totally swim everywhere and breathe here. Thank you, aquatic level. Of course, everyone else. Superior merfolk. I think we actually did have a dwarf in our party that hated me because I was faster.
Should have taken levels in the travel domain. Geez.
I'm like, should have had that domain for your deity. Come on now, jeez.
Just taking the feet.
Yeah, there was a lot of that character. I loved and hated him because I knew he was like the level of stupidity to it still, but I played him seriously, and that's the thing. Is if you have a really stupid character concept and you play it seriously, it can be really fun.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that it's a stupid thing.
Like a turtle.
The turtle is wonderful. It's very silly because it's a tortoise, but yes, but it's wonderful.
Yep.
So, I will anticipate seeing more on Dungeons of the Mad Mage and seeing how these two work together. Why don't we move on, because we could probably talk about this for a while. How about
go off on all sorts of tangents.
Oh, a lot of tangents. Tangents are so easy. The Black Dragon...
So the Black Dragon Trophy.
Yeah. WizKids. WizKids, who's been working with Wizards for a bunch of stuff. They've been doing miniatures for both D&D and Magic miniatures for their tokens, which I think is really cool. Has now put out a big old Black Dragon trophy for your wall. I mean, that's the best way to explain it. It's a, 15-pound trophy? So, I mean...
Yeah, for $450.
Yeah, because it's 2 by 4 foot wall studs. It's actually really big. It is like foam rubber latex, so it's not really like a heavy thing material, but it's just this gigantic dragon thing on your wall.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, part of me really, really wants this, but the other part of me is like, why would I spend $450?
It wouldn't fit right here, though.
I don't think I would have a great place to put it either. They show...
Oh, no. I have plenty of great places. I just can't have it right behind me, because I would...
Yeah, that's true.
Buy it, essentially.
Yes. They show pictures of people next to it. It's so large. It's gotta be... It would be large size dragon, I'm guessing, not huge size dragon, which is a weird thing to talk about, but...
Let's see. 2 foot by 4 foot. That would be almost a medium-sized character by itself, because that would be because a medium-sized character is a 5 foot by 5 foot square.
Yeah. With
a little room to move around in it.
Yeah.
So a medium-sized character as a head.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, they show pictures of it, so it's really hard to judge. And it's also like, because it's only the head, it's like, body proportions.
Yeah.
It's still impressive, the thing that they're showing off. I could probably see about getting up on screen for people to see the picture of the lady next to it. That's a good idea. Like, as someone that went and purchased the when they were doing D&D miniatures still, I got the Colossal Red Dragon, and that thing is not a miniature. You could pretend it's a miniature, but it is not. Like, the special rules they had to play if you wanted to play the old D&D miniatures game were like insane. It's like, it ignores walls. I wonder why.
Because walls have not been built that will stop it?
There you go. It's up on stream, the picture of it. With the lady. It's so... Yeah, there's like... It was too big for it. You know, and the thing that... Where are you, Red Dragon? Oh, you're like all the way over there on top of my shelf. But, yeah. I think they also did like they did like an Orcus for 4th edition, which I was done by then, so I was like, I'm not getting anything. And they've done a lot of crazy giant miniatures. This thing is like a whole new level. It's so cool though.
Yeah. But I mean, you can't play with it.
No, that's the problem. You can't play with it.
I guess you could. You could hold it like over the table and be like, "You guys are fucked."
or like, I guess if you really wanted to like decorate the area you're playing for some IRL life adventures, you could put it up like on the wall and kind of like feel like maybe you're like in medieval tavern or adventurers guild or something, you know. But
yeah, that's true.
I mean, I don't know if I'm nerdy enough that I would decorate a place with it either. You know, there's that level of nerdiness that you have, you know.
I don't think I'm rich enough to decorate a place with it, because I'm
That's also
definitely
true.
nerdy enough.
Well, like, I would put miniatures on display, but that's like my top end of it, I think, you know. I don't know if I'd want the giant wall dragon head. I'm unsure on that one, if I could somehow afford it and not feel like I broke my bank.
Yeah. I think I would be really tempted to do it if it had any use other than decoration, or in addition to decoration.
Yes.
Like, if it also was a dice roller.
Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, drop your dice into the head, and then it just like shoots out the mouth.
Or they put like some like electronics on it, so it like made growling or like, you know, some kind of noise or something, you know.
I don't know if that would be a good idea. I'm sitting here thinking of like the fish that sings whenever you touch it.
God. Yes, it would be the fish that sings. Oh, it's a dragon.
Except it's a giant dragon.
It would freak people out so much.
Especially if it's saying the same song that the fish did.
Oh my god. You could probably just install one of those things on it from the fish. You just take it out of the fish and put it in there.
Yeah, put a little IR sensor like in the tip of the tongue.
Yeah. So that it just starts doing the singing and dancing stuff.
Oh man.
Please someone do that. Please someone.
And then share a video.
Oh my god. Yes.
That would be fantastic.
Oh god, it would.
That would be terrible and also fantastic.
And like get like I guess since Black Dragon, like I don't know, like green LED lights or something in its mouth, so it looks like you could, when it's doing it, it's like breathing acid at you or something to freak people out.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have $450 to spend on the dragon head, also get a fog machine.
Oh god, yes.
The exit tube or whatever comes out through the mouth. Yeah. So like it's green laser lights with fog coming out while it's singing some stupid fish song.
Oh my god. This is the best idea ever. It's just like we'd never go to afford it, but it's fine. Someone out there might. Please do that, rich person out there.
Elon Musk, you need to do this.
Forget Mars. This will save the world.
No, bring it to Mars.
Oh, that's true. That way, if you happen to find actual Martians, then you can intimidate them with a dragon head.
Or play D&D with them.
That's true. Or play D&D with them. Because D&D, play with everybody.
Yeah.
Oh. So yeah, if you have $450 to spend, you get a Black Dragon trophy. Plaque for your wall.
And 8 square feet of wall space.
Yes.
And 2 load-bearing studs. Fortunately,
only 15 pounds. So it's not as bad as it could be. Foam rubber, latex, not quite as heavy as a lot of things could be. Your advantage in this case.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think that's good enough for the Black Dragon trophy, because just wanted to talk about it a little bit. All right. So, next big topic: the Star Trek RPG by Modifius has put out a new product that is kind of interesting. They have put out a Deep Space Nine character collection. So, I think on the show I've talked about Modiphius's Star Trek adventures, that it seems like they're doing a very good job of the way they do things, and it's very interesting that they are actually doing something that Joe suggested, that they might actually continue the cruise. I kind of held my breath that they might just stick with, original series next gen, but they put out the Deep Space Nine ones, so they might now put out the Voyager ones, and I don't really care if they put out the Enterprise ones, but if they want to, go ahead. Look, it wasn't terrible, it just wasn't good. I'm just gonna say it that much. Anyway, there's my Star Trek opinions.
That's fair.
So they have Captain Sisko, Major Kira, Worf, again Worf, I guess a different version of Worf, because it's, Deep Space Nine Worf instead of Next Gen Worf. O'Brien.
It's older Worf.
Yeah, older Worf. O'Brien, Dax, Bashir, Odo, Quark, and Garrick. So it's actually a pretty good selection.
Yeah.
And I mean, if I was playing a game where we'd have options, then Joe would play probably Quark, because he likes Ferengi.
Those sexy ears.
I was not going to give any reasons behind it, but that's... he has stories. He has stories, and he's shared them before, so we'll just leave it at that. It's cool. Modiphius is doing, I think, a good job continuing with this. I've liked what they've done with their Star Trek Adventures RPG, because they do seem to be doing a good job of keeping very Star Trek in the way that they're trying to go about things, which is awesome. I've always been curious to try some things out with it, just to see if they would work. And though the entire, character line seems very cool, if you had an option of playing in one of these, would you use these? Because these are technically just pre-made characters, is one of those things. And that's something to think about. For me, I'm unsure. If I was doing an adventure that was very much one of the main series, rather than crafting my own, using those as a very heavy basis, I might throw that, oh hey, we'll use these characters. But does not that limit a lot of things for players too, in a way?
I don't know. I kind of see it from a few different perspectives, because first of all, it depends on how well the characters and the GM know the story. Because I never really got into Deep Space Nine, although I've been thinking about it a lot more since people have been telling me it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know the characters that well, so I wouldn't know what kind of decisions those characters would make in a situation, which could be good or could be bad.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know the stories, so I don't know how those characters did react to certain situations, which might make for an interesting situation if somebody has seen them and all of a sudden Sisay is this brutish, go-getter, instead of a, calm, reserved, I'm gonna think about this for a bit. So, that, to a degree, but then at the same time, I'm sitting here thinking about Waterdeep and remembering reading all of the Drizzt books and thinking, yeah, it would be really cool to be Drizzt in all of those situations he was in and see how I would have chosen the same or differently.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing, when you're talking about familiarity with the character. I think you can also be too familiar also, because, for example, Deep Space Nine, it had its big story arcs. What happens if you're having an adventure very early on in the story arcs? Well, then someone that might know it very well, would you be able to separate out the final season story arcs that have this sort of character development from how the characters were developed early on? That's an interesting question too.
Yeah.
So I think it becomes very interesting to play them, I guess.
Yeah.
It's definitely more of a challenge. I would be curious to see people that were very unfamiliar with it play with the character sheets as they provide information. Because they do provide a little basis of information, abilities that give you a kind of an idea how the character will work. And I think that helps. But again, you're right, it's not a perfect thing. And even then, there are lots of different directions one could play a character.
Right. And I mean, the other side of it is if you're doing stuff that isn't actually from the show, then essentially, for people who know the story, they have a character that they can just put themselves into and say, oh, well, Sisay would do this. And other people who don't know the series could be like, well, I have this list of rules and I don't have to make a character.
That's definitely a thing. I think that's one of those things that I do like about like the starter sets that provide character sheets, because if you have really, really heavy beginners that are unfamiliar with RPGs entirely, you could be like, here's a character, here's how some things work with it, we'll work with you and have you learn stuff, and then maybe you can make your own. So there is definitely that level for beginner people. And and as a pre-existing franchise, having pre-existing characters, whether or not people make them or not, as the example, because they could use that to build these characters, is interesting. Rather than, like, I think, like, the D&D starter, the 5th edition starter has, like, a couple generic characters in it, They're not bad if you're going to play the starter, but they are very generic.
Yeah, they don't really have any personality for themselves so much. Whereas the Deep Space Nine crew, even if the person doesn't know the stories, there can be a little blurb based on all of the knowledge that whoever was writing it knows about the character, and that can give them that personality that the D&D characters sort of lack. And
the fact is, it's also something like, I could set it up that if I'm going to be doing Star Trek adventures with a couple of new people and they know it, I could also be like, hey, you're going to be playing this character if you want to learn anything about them. You can go like Wikipedia and like look up a whole bunch of stuff about the character and get an idea too. And I think that can help also. So there is a lot of good to these kind of things as pre-made characters, I think. I think it's I think it definitely is better that they're putting out more of them. I mean, I think one of the things that not only did I agree with Joe that doing the rest of the main franchises would be cool, but maybe doing like there are plenty of like side characters that would be interesting that maybe were there for a couple of episodes or not there as long or something. You could pull out a list of them that would be interesting to have sheets for also or something.
Yeah. I think that'd be pretty cool. Also, another thought for the characters they've already got written up, you can also just change a couple things and say, oh, this is a different chief of security on a different space station.
Yeah.
But you've already got all the skills that a real chief of security has.
Yeah. You can see kind of what these characters would have for the type of character they are and then work off of them. And that helps. You have O'Brien and Scotty and Geordi as engineers, so you can take a look at those three and get an idea of what kind of engineer skills you have, and what an engineer would have, and be like, oh, I got a good idea if I'm either building an own engineer based off of these.
Yep.
Granted, I'm unsure, like, normally, like, a core book, I always see, like, everybody getting a copy of kind of thing, but this is the kind of thing that maybe, like, only your game master would have, and, like, help share with you if you need to look at it or something. Or, if a player really wants to play one of them in, like, a storyline, you could probably come up with something as to why they're there, depending on what storyline it is. It's like, oh, yeah, he transferred for some missions, kind of thing. And so I think it's another option that, sometimes people want to play those really cool, famous characters at some, like, as you said, so you kind of would want to play Dritz. Hey, guess what? You can have an option for that now. It's like, oh, hey, you can pop in. And because they're probably they're keeping all the characters, I think, probably close to whatever a starting character would have, because I'm assuming I don't know the character development for Star Trek Adventures is the only thing I have to say. I do not know how you develop with experiences system, and that is the big question I have about with using them and stuff like that, how they compare to starting characters. But anyway, that's a question I probably should look through that quick start that I downloaded for free about. I've only gone through a little bit of it. I was planning on going through it if I ever used it all the way, which is one of those things on my list. Testing out all these quick starts and stuff. Anyway. So, yeah. Deep Space Nine characters. If you like the Star Trek Adventures, or you like Star Trek, again, Star Trek Adventures, I highly recommend it. As all the material I've seen that Modiphius has done, and I've read up on it, it is very well built for Star Trek. They managed to hit a lot of the beats you want in a Star Trek game, because it's about that exploration a lot of times. It's not about you can always punch something in the face, but it's not about the punching in the face. That just happens to come along that you need to. I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
All right. We got a few more topics, so why don't we move on? How about we talk about kids on bikes? So, the thing about
that seems like a really boring topic.
It's a kids on bikes RPG. Now, the sheer fact about this, it was a Kickstarter. It's out now. So, successful Kickstarter. Cool. Always great. Dunce is in a kids on bikes game. And I did not realize that wasn't more just a title for, what they were doing. And it was an actual RPG until I noticed a couple weeks ago. Because I had this topic from before I talked about Magic the last time we had a show. That it was an actual thing. It was like, oh, wow.
It's kind of a strange thing.
Well, it's supposed to be small town, big mysteries. I guess it's supposed to be a little bit of
Stranger Things.
Yeah, Stranger Things, Erie, Indiana, if you're going a lot older, because I remember that. I think that it was a little before my time, but I remember it.
Sure.
It's a lot of those kind of adventures. And, I mean, I think it was Modiphius that did Tales from the Loop, which was a little bit of that. But that was a little bit more sci-fi, same kind of thing. I feel like this is more mystery game, which is not bad. Give me a second there. My throat's just kind of trying to seize up a little bit because it hates me.
That's a problem, especially on a talk show.
I know, really. So it's an interesting setting that they're sort of establishing. I'm kind of curious to check out what Dunce and the rest have been doing now to see how they've taken the entire thing. Because the illustrations are kind of cool. The sample module's in Pleasant Point, New Jersey, which is I'm not sure. It's in New Jersey, so I could technically go to New Jersey. It's very close. It has all the different types of character things, all the build up for it. It's interesting. It's an interesting kind of. I don't think we've seen a lot more games like this because it's supposed to also be collaborative storytelling. I'm curious just how the because it's a dice system that you can use all the dice and the less results the better kind of thing. They do talk about characters with powers if you were going to use those. It is and the cooperative storytelling is I know it's supposed to be a little different. I'm unsure how their cooperative storytelling system works perfectly, but usually that means that there isn't as centralized a GM figure. my God, they blew away their pledge goal. I did not even check because I'm on their Kickstarter page now. They only were asking for 5,000. They got like 90,000. Damn.
That's probably why they have such cool illustrations.
That's true. I think they probably have more of them because when you have an excuse for having more of them, then of course you do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So they were trying in the spirit of things like Dread, which is, of course, if you're unfamiliar with Dread, that's the horror RPG where everybody kind of takes turns storytelling, and you take off Jenga blocks until it falls, and that's what kind of kills everybody, or kills your character kind of thing. So that's why it's like, you know, that's a cooperative storytelling. So I can see where they're coming from if they're using their own system for cooperative storytelling, how everybody's kind of building the world around a basic. And that's kind of cool. I am more curious to try it out than I was when I first heard the name. That's the thing I have to say about it. I don't know how I missed this one earlier. Was it in a time period where I still wasn't... It might have been old enough that I wasn't trying to occasionally mention Kickstarters and stuff on this show. It might have been. Oh yeah, November last year. When did I start the Kickstarter thing? I don't know anymore. I've lost it. I might have noticed it and just forgotten all about it because I'm awful. I'm an awful man that way. God.
And by that you mean completely and totally normal in that you have a fallible memory just like everybody else?
My memory's ultra fallible. Thank you very much.
I
there's a brain here and it goes away often. Was I supposed to be talking about something? Was I supposed to be remembering that character's name? I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure if we go to the vampire game and week by week I mispronounce the mummy's name each time. I kept saying it slightly differently.
Yeah.
I have it written down in front of me, and I'm pretty sure I keep mispronouncing it.
And I always thought that when you were referring to the Institute, you were saying the Kane Institute?
Yes. It's supposed to be C-I... or C-A-I? C-A-I, yes. That's right.
Yeah.
Chi Institute. Or,
yeah,
well,
now
they
I
pronounce it
realize
the
that.
K Institute. They do pronounce it the K Institute.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. And it does stand for something, but no one's ever tried to look that up. But, you know. You probably will find out information about it in the future. Just saying.
Oh. I can't imagine we would.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that was probably just a throwaway Institute thing.
You totally will not be... That thing they were talking about, you know, totally, you know, getting you under their thumb. They're not gonna look into that. No, why would they do that? Anyway.
And we probably don't need to worry about it either.
Mm-mm.
Even if it does happen, then it probably won't matter to us in the trenches, so to speak.
No. And that guy, the one that your friends totally beat up and stole the ray gun from, will totally not come back to bite you in the ass even more.
No, probably not.
Never.
I mean, they didn't kill him, so...
That's true. They didn't kill him.
What could he be mad about?
Just saying. But, Kids on Bike. We don't see as I said, I think Tales from the Loop is the only other RPG I know about that goes even close to this kind of storyline, and even that one, it doesn't feel the same. Definitely. It feels more, oh, shoot. That was minimized and everybody was frozen up because things minimized on me and I just noticed it now. Thanks. Thanks.
Oh, wow, I have a dumb-looking face right now. Oh, there we go. All
Yes.
better.
If Discord gets minimized, everybody freezes up, and I missed that it got minimized.
Gotcha.
While I was trying to page through stuff. Again, it's fun with technical difficulties.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this one definitely...
All you need is, like, six screens, so you don't have to minimize anything.
I need a second screen, which I have the monitor over there. I just need some other way of hooking it to the computer, and I need alternate wiring, which I haven't gone and bought for like 6 months now, and I know I need to just figure it out. Like, and then I could hook up a second monitor, and it would be better. I have to do that. Maybe this weekend. Maybe I'll remember. Probably not, but I'll maybe.
Talking Tabletop, the advantages of 2 monitors.
Oh, God. I do like how this one is a little less, I guess, sci-fi superpower than Tales from the Loop is. That it's a similar take on the idea of kids going into adventures, but this is more everyday people, and I get the feeling that you don't necessarily need to be kids on this adventure. It's
yeah,
just
I feel like this could do Scooby-Doo really well.
Yes, this is the Scooby-Doo adventures. Maybe this is the maybe not your like classic. You could go classic, it's a guy in a suit Scooby-Doo with this, or you could do like one of the more modern ones where there is a little bit of supernatural, just not as much as you'd think about kind of ones,
As supernatural.
God, yeah, you could. I don't think you'd go full supernatural with this one. As I said,
Yeah.
they do have the power characters, so like they do talk about like actually having things.
Yeah, and that kind of gives it a nice range where you could go Scooby-Doo or you could almost go supernatural.
Mm-hmm. You can
all in the same game.
Yeah, you can find some kind of interesting balance in between. And I guess since it's cooperative RPG, it's going to depend on your people how they go with that one.
And like the blurb says that while you're making your characters, you're also kind of developing the world. So
which
it seems like you'll all have That's what I've heard happens in the Dresden Files RPG, where while you're determining your characters, you're also kind of developing what kind of world your town has.
Well, it reminds me a lot of Fiasco too. Which I have fun playing Fiasco when I have the few chances I get to play. Hi, welcome home. Where, like, the connections, like, the dice rolling, yes, they give you, like, direction how you're building your characters and the connections you have between each other, but that builds the world, and you take a basic setting and work off of that. In this case, it might be like you're taking, was it Pleasant Point, New Jersey as a basic thing, and you develop your characters, and that develops your version of the town a lot more, and I think that's an interesting way of building characters, and that is another version of cooperative storytelling. Granted, that's the one session RPG, and this is more building that out to more campaign RPG, or I guess multiple sessions at very least. But still, I feel like it proves the point that you can do very good cooperative storytelling, and build something really cool. And I don't think I have enough experience. I don't have enough chances to do cooperative storytelling adventures. That's what I want to say. I would like to do more of them. They're fun. I've had some. I've had some very crazy times, with Fiasco, and I'd love to try this out also at some point in time. A character co-controlled. Oh, so they also feature a character co-controlled by. Oh, so if you're using a powered character, everyone's using the character together, which is another very interesting thing.
Yeah, it's kind of nice because that means that even though there's one character that has these superpowers that nobody else gets, everyone gets the chance to kind of influence how they act.
And it does sound like they do have a GM. But the GM is a little bit more step back than normal, which is good.
Like they're the director of what's generally going on rather than the arbiter of what's happening.
It's like, I would think, whose line is it anyway? The host.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the host of Whose Line, basically, who's like giving some directions, who's like, who rather than going directly to the audience suggestions would come up with suggestions themselves, and the players then build off of that into something. Yeah. And I think that's an interesting way of taking the narrative line too, definitely. It's an interesting system, and it's out now. As I said, successful Kickstarter, which are always great stories. Awesome.
Dunce is playing it, apparently.
Yeah, Dunce is playing it. Tuesday nights after we're done Vampire, he has a couple hours off and he's into this one. And then he has a couple hours off, and he does the... I'm not sure if they're using a custom system or if they actually found it, but they're doing a Witcher RPG in the morning then, so he's got a lot of stuff
neat.
all in a row. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
It might be custom D&D, I'm not sure. I haven't talked to the person who's running that about it, because I talked to him, Daleric. So,
Okay.
anyway, Kids
Cool.
on Bike. It's out now. You can purchase it for yourself, so it's not just for those of you who did kickstart it. Yes, you got it already. But for those of you who did not kickstart it, you too can get it now.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the slasher RPG, because where did I want to find the proper link to this. Well, the slasher RPG has kind of got like an upgrade. If you want to, the slasher RPG has been out for a little bit now. It's basically made to be horror RPG. You know, there it is. The slasher RPG revised. Was that released recently? That is the I think it is technically the revised one that I've managed to find, because hey, sometimes I'm good at finding these things by chance. So it's basically a slasher film. I mean, that's the easiest way to describe it. It's the expanded and revised version of it is now available. You step into a horror RPG. It's using the Fate system, which I only know a little bit about the Fate system. And there are 3 main play modes. The game master is the director who puts together the plot. There are survivors, a group of hapless kind of people, and there's a killer, which people can play as, who's basically, you know, murdering all the survivors. So that comes for an interesting dynamic also, that you, rather than have your game master, your director, be the antagonist, another player is kind of the antagonist. I like kind of where that goes with it, that you're and they basically it's been out now, but they've put out a kind of revised, updated version of it that's expanded on some of the rules. So now you two, well, before you could definitely be in your own slasher flick, but now you can be in your own slasher flick, and it's slightly improved.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of RPGs that actively set up the antagonism between characters.
Yeah. And
like, a lot of them are generally cooperative with maybe a little bit of inter-character drama and tension and conflict, but it's not like literally one person is trying to kill all the rest of them.
Yeah, that, you know, that someone gets to play the killer. And the thing is also, you don't see a lot of this type of horror in RPGs anyway. Normally horror RPGs are a lot about the setup, the atmosphere, you know, the horrible things.
Or the mechanics.
The mechanics,
with,
the
like,
horror. Yeah, with Dread. The mechanics with Dread, or like the, you know, it's more psychological horror. You know, that's what they more aim for in what they're doing horror. This is definitely more murdery, killy horror, which it can be campy, but it can also do it well. I think most of the time, most slasher movies tend to be campy. Very few are actually like very, very good horror. You have a couple of classics you can point out, and the rest are just like, that's campy. I mean, I'm sorry, they came out with, what was it, Freddy vs. Jason? That was just, you know, ultra campy, double slashers, but.
Yep. I'm kind of curious whether this is set up as a purely like one shot, or if it's set up for like a campaign mode.
I'm definitely interested in that one too. I hadn't thought of that one.
Because like if you're killing off people, like, you have to find a way to set up like success for both sides. Like, if people keep getting killed off and it's campaign mode, then they must have ways to like bring in new characters, but that kind of maybe feels bad unless there's a mechanic for how well you're succeeding as the killer.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to figure out what the degrees and measures of success are for each of the groups.
I feel like what it would be is maybe rather than play it as an overall I definitely would have to we'd have to really dive deep into what the system is, because they do provide a little bit of information, but not enough on the actual system, I don't think, to really get an idea. But
Well, I mean, the system is based on fate, so your success is based on the storytelling of the fudge dice.
yeah, so because the thing is, I've read up on the fate system, but I've never played it. Have you had a chance to try the fate system before?
I played it once a long time ago, but I kind of sort of understand the mechanics.
Okay.
Because it's basically you get, from what I understand, you get a number of fudge dice that you can use based on whatever trait you're using, and they're sort of based on like if she's the cute cheerleader, then she might be able to influence the game by trying to convince the jock to do something for her, or to, protect her from the killer or whatever. And then she would roll her fudge dice, and the number of pluses, if they add up to more than the number of minuses, tell her like how well she succeeds at whatever she's trying to do.
Mm. Yeah. So that's very interesting. I am very curious, yeah, definitely, if you would lose a character if you'd have another. Because I'm guessing, there's always, you never have a slasher fic where it's just 3 characters or something, where if you're... Because if you're having, a normal RPG table, it's, 5 people? It's, your director, your slasher, your 3 players kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
I would also be interested to see if... because it talks about having someone someone getting to play the killer. Would that mean also is the person that's the killer both the killer and a character?
Yeah.
A survivor, because the fate may determine if your killer would kill you rather than that, too.
Yeah.
Your own character.
Or you take turns playing as the killer, or even everyone plays as the killer, kind of like in the Kids on Bikes thing,
Yeah.
where everybody gets to play the powered character. Maybe everybody gets to play as the killer.
And the fact is,
Sort of.
the fate dice are helping point the direction of what the killer's kind of doing more. That'd be kind of interesting too. The thing is, it makes me very curious about this game, to see it, even though I know it's such a specific genre kind of thing, though. I can, just the nature of it, I can see you expanding more upon it, definitely. That you don't have to just do classic Jason Voorhees kind of adventure. You could probably do Aliens and be a little more sci-fi, where it's a hapless group of people that aren't the combat people, the original aliens. They're not combat people. They're not ready for fighting this thing, They're,
they honestly don't even know what the fuck it is.
Yeah, and it's just stalking and murdering the crap out of them,
Yeah.
One at a time. And it is Stalker without being Stalker, So I can see definitely taking on different roles of that in different directions, that you don't have to go classic, horror. You could even go you could even do something a little bit more modern horror with something like maybe Scream, that has your slashers doing it, even though it's technically a person. It's technically a person.
I wonder how Saw would work with this game.
Ooh,
setting up all the victims in these horrible death traps,
mm-hmm.
but still being able to somehow play as the killer setting up the death traps.
Yeah. So I think there is a lot to this system that we could explore, and I'm just curious as to how much they actually have put together for it and how much could be actually dived into. It interests me more, because when I'm thinking about it, there are more options for storytelling, for still having horror but not being restricted in horror to campy classic slasher flick. But if you want to do that, I mean, hell, those can be fun, so go ahead, try it out. So the revised version is out now. If you want in PDF, it's $15. They do have softcover versions of it you can get too. So for $30, you get a softcover version. So that, hey, part of me still loves a good print version of a book. You know, I respect the PDF because it helps me a lot of times. You know, but I respect the good old printed out version. I was gonna pull out my player's handbook because I've been using that, you know, whenever doing D&D, but man. Anyway, why don't we move on to the last topic so we don't go too late, because, you know, it's just the two of us, so I don't want to go too late.
Sure.
I think my niece is being bad in the background. Steve Jackson Games, hey, released something else. There is something else Munchkin related that I want to talk about, and I think I want to start with your opinion on the depths of Munchkin. We'll call it the depths of Munchkin.
Okay.
So now, Munchkin has gone in interesting directions.
A lot of them.
Yes. I don't even know, they may have, oh god, they did kickstart it too. Oh, they kickstart way too much stuff now. They don't need to kickstart stuff, but they do. And that's a different entire issue. But they put out a Ninja Turtles version.
Yep.
So, yeah. Oh my god, I didn't realize they put out more Munchkin Marvels than they did, because they have a second and third one I see. And the Munchkin, oh my god, I'm not going to dive into it. If I dive into it, it'll hurt me more than it already is hurting me. Okay. So, this feels very comic book Ninja Turtles, which I guess is fine because there's been so many versions of it, you know? It's still...
I think it's kind of impressive that they apparently got art from the co-creator Kevin Eastman. I think that is really cool.
I'll agree on that one, that you get, like, art from the original co-creator. Just because, you know, there's so many incarnations of Ninja Turtles out there now.
Yeah. And so many bad ones.
I mean...
Artistically.
Look, the 80s one, it was terrible. I love it because I remember it fondly, but I realize now it was awful and campy. You know, the 80s one.
I went back and watched a bunch of those.
I've been tempted to, but I know it's going to be so awful. You know, it's like, I know there's that level of like, I know it's going to be bad, but I kind of want to check it out too. But it's going to be so bad. And they've had it since they had, like, I think, like, I heard someone talk about this recently, that there was the then like Gritty's 90 kind of version that was on, I think, Fox Kids, which by that time I wasn't really watching Saturday morning cartoons. You know, it took a lot because it was post X-Men and Batman and stuff, which were really great, and so it would take something special to get me into it then, you know. As someone that will still watch a good cartoon, you know, nowadays, if it's interesting enough. And then there might have been one in there somewhere in the middle, but I know there was the like the 3D Nickelodeon one, and I've seen some stuff that they've got a new one, which someone was arguing that, like, the art style is really weird, but they take more influence from the original comics. So for characters, at least, they were saying, you know, the art style is something to get beyond.
I've kind of had that problem with a lot of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So
we're going classic comic book here. Great, you know. They have, of course, they have normal version, deluxe version, Kickstarter deluxe version, Ultimate deluxe version. So you have 4 versions of this one rather than the normal Munchkin, which occasionally has 2.
So, just to be clear, the Kickstarter versions are exclusive, and you could only get them through the Kickstarter.
But they're advertising them on their website.
They are. That's kind of weird.
Uh-huh.
These versions were offered exclusively to backers and are not available for sale. Suggested retail price, $30.
Does this imply you might find them somewhere in a store that, like, someone sold them that you want them? I don't know. They give a suggested retail price, so I don't understand it. See, like, I got, like, when they started doing deluxe versions, and I get what they did with the deluxe versions. They put out, like, a little game board and figures with it that you can use to keep track of stuff. Fine.
Yeah.
If you want to spend the extra $5 on that, more power to you.
Sure.
I've played someone that has had a deluxe version of things. It's neat. Is it necessary? Mm-hmm. No. I'm fine with just my dice keeping track of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Pulling out a bunch of D10s, you know.
Yeah, or pennies.
Or pennies, yeah. Then you have a pile of pennies. Do I have 10 pennies yet?
Yeah, or like literally anything that can count up to 10.
Yeah. And it's standard price for the normal Munchkin Teenage Mutant Ninja price. So you know, it's what it's always been for Munchkin as now. So I think I can't complain about that aspect of it.
Yeah.
It seems like you can play as a character now rather than like get a race or something, because it's supposed to be either Turtles or Casey or April.
I think the races and classes that are present in traditional standard Munchkin have been replaced by katas and stances.
Yeah, which, I mean, we've seen something similar to it, like when they were doing like Munchkin Fu, they had like styles and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But they've kind of developed that into something newer now with this, and then you're just playing as a certain one of the characters, which, I mean, for one like this, I understand it more, you know. And
yeah.
And the fact is, I think that's one of the reasons I would suggest maybe trying this one out. It's a little different. And a little different is what I kind of almost want in Munchkins, when I still feel sometimes they just don't have that.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think they needed to kickstart this at all.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That it feels kind of like Wizards kickstarting the next expansion of Magic.
Yeah. It does. It really does. Granted, some of these Kickstarter ones that they've done, I could have passed off. Like when they kickstarted Munchkin Shakespeare. That's a little unusual of a one. It's definitely a little out there. You like have Shakespeare-based Munchkin. But like Ninja Turtles? Really? You're not going to sell Ninja Turtles? It would be like... That's the difference. Like, if Magic would come out and be like, hey, we got this really crazy product. We don't know if people really want it. We're going to kickstart it just to see. I could pass that off. But if they're like, as you're saying, the next expansion? No. I think Steve Jackson...
what? I do see one kind of difference. Like, the Steve Jackson, the exclusive versions have, like, special stuff, so it's almost like if you're there for the beginning, you're not getting anything that actually impacts gameplay that much. But you get this cool extra thing for being there to help start it off.
Yeah.
And everything, like, that's really required for the game is available in the normal product, but by kickstarting it and helping them produce it, you're actually getting a little bit extra, which would definitely not be the same thing for example, Wizards with Magic, because that's everything they make in Magic is part of the game, pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's there's just been this weird thing with Steve Jackson games and Kickstarter that I don't know how much they actually needed as that crunch. Now, granted, yeah, I'll agree with you. The little bonuses are what make it that people want to do these. You know, that helps them. That's what kind of is the incentive to get in these Kickstarters, because there are big Munchkin fans which love all these things, you know? And it's a way to get...
There's Ninja Turtles fans, too.
That's true. Ninja Turtles fans. Like, some of the other ones that I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but they've got a crap ton of all these, like, weirdly specific ones now, you know? That... I can see the Kickstarting being the source of very good stuff and getting the name out there and stuff like that. And definitely there are times where I think Kickstarter is very good for use, but it's a little bit of a it's video games and pre-ordering. It's what it is. You get a couple of things for it. It's the same culture, and the video games and pre-ordering are kind of worse than that too, because the pre-ordering, like a lot of times, if you really, really wanted those bonuses and you really wanted to wait and not pre-order it ahead of time, you could wait till like an hour before it goes live and then get it on Steam or something nowadays. You can wait to make sure it's actually coming out. This one, granted, there is like guarantees that no, there's no guarantees, is there? So like if things fall through, you can lose your money. Granted,
I don't think on Kickstarter you can.
Not on Kickstarter?
I think on Kickstarter they only charge you if the product does get funded.
Well, I think there was like some kind of something that happened on Kickstarter that like the person lost all their money and stuff, and then like did some awful things. There have been some bad things that have happened. Granted, Steve Jackson Games, I highly doubt you'll have that problem.
That's probably true. And one product not being as successful as they expected probably isn't going to ruin the company.
No. The thing is, like, if it doesn't get funded, I don't know if I've seen any of these Kickstarters that haven't gotten funded, is the problem, too. So it's like, they don't ask for so much that I would feel. I think they're probably aiming for, like, the first batch kind of thing, Yeah. They have a pretty good turnaround on these Kickstarters, too. They're not long after they're done. They get the product out, too, so... but it's this weird situation, I feel. I feel like it's too crutchy for them, kind of thing. That they've found it as a crutch, and they're just using it now. Because I don't see their small games out on Kickstarter. Like Blob Lobster is a card game they're putting out this month. A little later on. And I never heard of that kind of crap on Kickstarter. It's a little like $7 card game they're putting out.
What's it called?
Blob Lobster. Granted, I don't think they kickstarted their latest Munchkin, Core Munchkin edition either, because they have Jurassic Snark, Munchkin 9, which 9 expansions is a lot, and I've kept free. That's why my Munchkin box my Core Munchkin set got so insanely sized, because it's compatible with that Munchkin Legends, Munchkin Moops Mashup, Munchkin Oz, Munchkin Pathfinder are apparently all core set kind of thing. So it's all basic back, and you can throw them all goddamn together. I didn't know Munchkin Oz could get it there. Well, I guess it's compatible with anyone, but they specifically mentioned those, but whatever. Yeah, I would be curious if what else they kickstart.
Cool.
I don't think they kickstart everything,
Apparently they kickstarted Munchkin Special Delivery, which looks like a kind of a loot box.
Okay. I'm pretty sure we might have made a comment on this one before. We've made a comment on a lot of their awful products too. They've had okay products and then they have awful products. Like, what was it? Munchkin Core Set Lite, which was the core set with like half the cards for $5 less.
What?
Yeah, it was just... It was just bad. If I could find it. Not the Kickstarter.
Munchkin Light.
There's the Christmas light.
Yeah, $20.
$20, and I think it's technically like 2/3 the cards, but for $5 less, you're losing more cards than you should. I don't understand it. Maybe, I think we said it, is the only reason to get it is if you don't have $25. You only have $20, and you have never gotten a Munchkin thing.
And you desperately, desperately want to play it, and nobody you know has it.
And you can't wait to get that $5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, Munchkin,
Munchkin
that was just awful. I think that's the worst one next to the Munchkin CCG, but that's besides the point.
There's a Munchkin CCG.
Oh my god, there's a Munchkin CCG. That one. Me and Joe tried it last year at PAX Unplugged. We were not fans. Basically, they had like pre-made decks, and the 2 decks that they had us trying out pre-made did not mash up well. I was playing like an orc bard, and he was playing a halfling ranger, because you're kind of like pre-made decks like that. His deck was just, in general, much easier to play, and ended up being very, very much so superior. Like, I understood where my deck was supposed to go to when we were playing the game, but it was like, it was much more, it was a harder, much higher level gameplay you needed to even match. You know, you had to have a lot more luck, a lot more like things. They didn't work together, and I don't know why they were like, if that was the best example they had, it was a terrible example.
I'm looking at the FAQ, and it's got after the active player's unzap step.
Oh my god, you're looking at the... Do they have the, like the list of steps in, like, an abbreviation?
Not in the FAQ. I imagine they'd be in the rules.
That's what they had. They gave us, like, an abbreviation for all the steps, because it was like, Magic has a lot of steps. They have untap, upkeep, draw, main phase, end step.
Combat.
Well, combat in the middle. Yeah, combat second phase. They have, like, twice as many things, and they were like, you know, like unzap things.
Flip, unzap, reckoning, unstash, draw.
Right from the beginning, yeah.
Play loot, squish loot, play a location, squish a location, play an ally, start a fight. Ready defender, check for cheating, hire the monster, weapon damage, monster damage, end of the fight. Cooldown, level, gold, enter.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
The Munchkin CCG, I don't think it should exist, just because I don't think the CCG market's great. There's like, it's very hard to get into the CCG market. I'm sorry. It requires something. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure we have Magic, we have Pokemon, and then we have the Japanese ones, which have animes to back them up. Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think Cardfight Vanguard, and there is another CCG, which is...
You mean Pokemon?
No, well, I already said, well, that one built itself without the anime, I think, and the video game. You know, that's the thing, is, like, it's taken a life of its own at this point in time.
Yeah, that's true.
But, like, I always feel like when you're seeing stuff on Yu-Gi-Oh!, they're always got the anime to back them up, and yeah. I watched some of Cardfight Vanguard as a big anime fan, and that one was just, it was weird and crazy, and I didn't believe it was big it was until I went to a convention some years ago, and I saw a bunch of people playing it. And I'm like, well, I guess it actually exists. As much as it is. You hear tales about it, like, online and stuff, and then you're like, well, there you go. And then there was another game that I've heard about that I tried out at PAX South a couple years ago, and I can't remember its name now, but it was a CCG that's like maybe medium tier. And then again, like, not to bust on CCGs, it's hard to bust into them right now, as the market is very restricted. The big CCG renaissance is dead, you know. And you have to be really great, and I don't know if they're good enough to, like, maintain it long period. They're trying their hardest, and maybe they have enough of people to keep it going for now. But so did the Star Trek CCG. So did the Vampire the Masquerade CCG. Technically, the Vampire the Masquerade CCG, it's Vampire the Eternal Struggle. And it's technically kind of made a comeback. They actually, for a while there, it was originally, I think, run by, similar to Pokemon. It was originally, I think, run by like Wizards, and then White Wolf took it over, and White Wolf ran it for a lot of years. It kind of died. Some PDF cards that have been sanctioned by White Wolf have made rounds, and just recently a new anthology set that did include new cards came out. So, and now specifically you can get, I think, some new stuff that's actually being printed. Like the game died, I can call it died, and has been coming back again. Very, very vampire, you know. But it is one of the older the older CCGs that actually still exist. It's just, I don't think it's not a big popular one. It's apparently very popular in Europe.
Huh.
Yeah. But Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, yeah, which was originally named Jihad, but they changed that name because Jihad is a term in Vampire that's supposed to be the war between the elders, but it got a very big change thanks to certain things that happened in our world.
Yeah,
you know, one of those things that they changed it early on. They changed it early on, fortunately, because they're like, we're gonna stick away from that, you know. But
yeah. So. Turtles Munchkin.
But yes, Turtles Munchkin. Going back to the entire thing of Munchkin and that, I don't know. I think it would be interesting to try out. Like, they seem to have some interesting differences, but I worry that it's going to be the same. And I think that's the one thing I have to say about a lot of these Munchkins. It's the same game, new shiny coat.
Yeah.
And
I think what's interesting about Munchkin is the later you get into it, the more options you have to basically get the same game with whatever coating you want on it.
Yeah.
So, like, if I've never played Munchkin before, I can say, you know what, I really like Marvel movies, I'll get Marvel Munchkin. Or, I really like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I'll get Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Or, I'm a 70-year-old guy who likes Shakespeare, I'll get the Shakespeare Munchkin to play with my kids. And they might actually enjoy it because it's still the same game, but they can have something that fits with Grandpa.
And I think it is good in a way, but I think there's that level of, for those of us that have been around since the first Munchkin came out, we would just like maybe a little bit of like revolution in it, you know. Granted, I think the core sets have done a decent job in certain places. Like, they introduced dungeons as an option in the original Munchkin. That was kind of cool. They introduced steeds, you know, and the steeds were like, they were stupid, but it was still something a little different, you know. And I feel like we maybe need a little bit more than that sometimes, that for me to feel like it's not that I couldn't have fun with the Turtles Munchkin, but for me personally to go out of my way at this point in time and buy it, I feel like it needs something different to make it unique.
I feel like each of the different expansions does have something that makes it unique, but it's not different enough from the base game that it's worth paying another $25 for that one unique thing that doesn't really play that well with other versions of Munchkin. So, like, I'm reading the page here, and it says the game includes a new team-up mechanic that lets you gain bonuses for working together. Which I'm guessing is different from the normal, if you help somebody, you can argue for some of their loot, or they have to give you something else, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it's also different from the elf ability from the base game, where if you help somebody and they win, then you both gain levels instead of just the one of you.
Yeah. No.
And the other really cool thing, like, this is the big selling point for me for the Turtles Munchkin game, is the conceit for the game is the first one to get to the level 10 pizza parlor eats for free. I could see that being a really good way to settle who's going to pay for pizza for game night. Like, you say, okay, we're going to play Turtles Munchkin, and everybody who doesn't win pays for pizza.
I mean, I like this. See, the thing is, like, I like this. Yeah, I like that idea. And the thing about this is, I like this as a Munchkin more than I've liked some other ones. Like, when they put out Munchkin Warhammer 40K, I get that the person that really liked, who helped make it, really liked 40K, and really was a big fan of it. But, like, there are certain things that I just don't feel mash up with Munchkin quite as well. Quite as well.
Yeah. I think there's some things that have a better fit, but I think the appeal of Munchkin is it fits with most things at least a little bit, because in everything, you know, going out and fighting stuff and getting rewarded for it, like that's like the idea of humanity.
And I am happy that they do keep with things that are along the lines of their core aspect. Like when we started out, it was like Core Munchkin, then it was Star Munchkin and Munchkin Fu. So they have like Munchkin Grim Tidings for grim fairy tales, and you know, Munchkin Crazy Cooks. That's like all about food. You know, these are not like very specific ones, which I'm very much more happy about them. You know, because it's my original Munchkin. You know. And I hate the little packs that they do. So that's another thing. The mini expansion packs, those are evil things that should not exist, because because Fantasy Flight has taken that over and put it to the extreme, and up theirs for owning that. But thank you, Steve Jackson Games, for pioneering the way for this. Those are expensive, you get nothing from them, and you can't find them ever. For a while, when I was keeping up with all things Munchkin, it's been like 8 years since I was doing that. You know, they went too crazy for me. But I was trying to keep up with these mini pack expansions during the early days. You couldn't find some of them in game stores, or even when I went to like some conventions where I could find them. So they were awful that way. They weren't like the normal stuff where you could just find them anywhere. But anyway, I can complain a lot about that there. I'm passionate. I love Munchkin as for what it is, but there's a lot of things Steve Jackson Games does that just piss me the crap off. So it's like with Magic the Gathering. They do a lot of crappy things and it pisses me off, but I love the game. So I mean,
yeah,
love hate relationship.
Yeah,
Wizards in general, I think, is a love-hate relationship. You know, I think they haven't gone as much hate on D&D lately, fortunately, but you know what's out there. They're going to do something that's going to piss us off. I think, though, D&D Beyond and what it currently is incarnated on, for what they promised and what they ended up with, it's a good place to make some characters, but...
I'm still a little salty for what they did to Trapdoor, so...
Well, I mean...
I want to just stay out of that.
They bring some salt to us, Wizards. Fix yourselves.
So much salt.
I had a couple of topics related to Magic that I wanted to talk about that were because when I did the Magic show, there was a bunch of controversial crap. They've done a couple more things that have been controversial that I want to handle, but we're not doing it this week because I could talk on. They changed their name, like, good example, they changed their names because they were like always the Grand Prix for all the places where they were pretty much big tournaments. Now they're called Magic Fests as of next year. They pretty much are big tournaments with some stuff tacked on the side. I know they want to make them more actual, like, conventions, which would be awesome, but you actually have to do that. They haven't. What people describe it as is it's usually just a big tournament with a couple of vendors, maybe some artists you can meet, and maybe a couple of panels if you're lucky. That is not a convention make. It's not a festive.
I mean, it could be festive without being a festival.
Also, they stole that from some kind of which I saw on Twitter. They stole that from some kind of convention, apparently in England, which is actually like a magician's convention. So it's Magic Fest. Oh my God. There's a Magic Fest that exists too. Anyway, no.
Legitimately, I would love conventions about Magic.
That would be cool. No, I was into Magic for a couple of years. You know, like actual like stage Magic for a while. I tried some stuff out. I was awful at it as a kid, but it was cool.
I'm really good at it as long as my audience consists entirely of 3 to 7 year olds.
Yes,
probably more like 6.
Yeah,
I'm really good at it.
Those that still have the wonder in their eyes and are not looking for the answers.
And especially if they're not really solid on object permanence, too.
Yes,
that makes it really
easy. That
easy.
helps a lot. But, no, I'll I'll hopefully have like Joe or someone on next week who can actually help me in the deep dive into that crap and some other things. So, controversy, magic or wizards, fix your crap.
Oh man, and the Amazon thing.
Oh God, the Amazon thing. The Amazon thing because it's caused problems with Dungeons and Dragons. Now they're doing it with Magic. My God, and it turns out, good news, everyone. Update from our last time's topic on the Magic masterpiece for Ravnica. Guess what? When they sold it on the Hasbro website, it was as much of a shit show as it was going to be. We all knew that the Hasbro site was awful.
Shitty?
Yes, it was the worst thing in the universe. Guess what? Because our good friend of the show, the Orcish Librarian, who was on to help us talk about it, he apparently was been charged for the product, but hasn't got a confirmation letter.
Oh my!
So, this is after crashes and problems.
Oh.
So he doesn't know if he actually has the product.
Well, I mean, he doesn't actually have the product, that's for sure.
Yeah, he doesn't know if he actually will get the product, even though he's been charged for it. So yes, it was awful. As awful as we thought it would be, as we talked about it being, if not more. It's that they could... So, that's probably a Hasbro exec somewhere that came up with that great idea. I'm sure of it. And or Wizards exec who's like, just... I don't know. Anyway, Wizards side, Magic side of Wizards, problems. But I still love their company. I still love the stuff they do. But they give me a headache with the awful stuff they do. The level of awful is just bad. And same with Steve Jackson Games, because that's where I was going to with this. Same with more Steve Jackson Games. Awful. Please fix yourself, Steve Jackson Games. Anyway, let's go into ending segments. I have not been good on looking up any kind of Kickstarters or something for my Kickstarter Korner, just because we have not been consistent on the show enough for me to feel good about that. Do you have a really cool Kickstarter you want to support?
Let's see.
If not, it's fine, because like...
No, there's one that I don't know if it's ended yet. So that one ended. That one. I mean,
like, I when I'm looking up stuff for the topics for the show, I do see very cool Kickstarters. I don't, with being inconsistent with the show, I don't feel like sometimes I can like really give a deep dive into them, unfortunately.
Because Shadows of the Demon Lord, the RPG by Robert Schwalb.
Oh, okay.
They just came out with a new thing, but I think the Kickstarter ended and it's finally published on drive-thru.
Well, that's
because like the original game got kickstarted 2 or 3 years ago, and oh god, it is so much fun to play, and I want to play more of it, but I don't, because I don't have enough people to play with here. But like the game itself is fantastic, and they keep putting out like new expansions for it, and this is the last one, and it's got like the compilation of all the magic spells that they've put out, and it's got a couple of new classes, and it's got like new spells for each of the magical traditions that they've had over the course of the whole game. And he said, this is the last one, I'm done, and this is pretty much going to be it, so I'm working on something new. And I really admire Robert Schwalb for doing that, and also for putting out such an awesome game.
Yeah.
When
you get
something
awesome
new
stuff.
coming.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's something to check out. Why don't we just kind of move on to our last two segments then, and we'll just end today. Just because you have more of a schedule, and I don't want to dive into too much and take up too much time. Let's give you a little extra time here. And we have gone on for like hour 45, so it's a good show time. So, your week in tabletop. Other than Vampire, have you done anything this week in tabletop?
Have I done anything in tabletop?
Yeah.
Nope, I have not. I might be getting to play a game of Shadows of the Demon Lord. with some friends of mine up here in Madison, because a friend of mine's got a whole week off of work next week, I think. Like not this coming week, but the one after that. So we might have a whole bunch of Shadows of the Demon Lord playing then, which...
Man, you know, when you talk about that, it reminds me of my old days where I was young and I could actually, like, after work, go to my one's friend house who was nearby to where I worked. So it's like 10 o'clock at night, and we'd start role-playing. We role-play for like 6 hours, and then we'd all get up in the morning for stuff, and then we do it again. And like, there was a summer like that my one friend who DMs me a bunch, we like marathon that, went through epic adventures, and that was probably our best adventure with that group, but it was also the most awful because we never slept, and we were like late teens, early 20s, you know, we were still post high school, we were still alive back then. Just out of high school, you know, we could live, we could do this, you know.
You didn't have adult responsibilities weighing you down.
Not as many.
Fair enough.
You know, I you know,
significantly less.
Significantly less. You know, it's just work and before I transferred to a real college, back when I was in community college, you know.
Back when schoolwork was easy.
And that's why I have, fun fact, that's why I have an associate's degree and not a full degree. Because I got my associates, transferred to schools, and then ran out of money.
Oh, man.
There's more to that story, but the long story short is, I ran out of money, so I could not finish the full degree. That's what happened.
I've got a bachelor's and a master's, and I ended up playing all of both of my massive campaigns in those years. And we went from basically 1 or 2 up through level 20-ish, maybe a little higher, during my 2 degrees.
Man, I've had some great campaigns too, just some classic ones. But for my week, I had oh my god, my brain is fun. We could Castle Panic on Sunday. That was fun. Castle Panic's always a good time.
Yeah.
We won. We still had a couple of towers left, so it wasn't the worst we've ended up with in Castle Panic. No, when you end up with like a single tower and maybe a wall, that's the epic win. But like, you know, when it's a couple left, you're like, we did pretty good.
We're doing fine.
We're doing fine. Then of course was Vampire, which was great because they finished the first kind of the first story kind of
adventure.
First adventure ended up they didn't die.
No one died.
I was thinking that Tiv's character was going to do something stupider and get himself killed, which I was not going to stop if he was going to get himself killed, but he didn't do anything really dumb. So, you know, I was like, oh, okay. This is not the dumbest you could be. Yeah. you
That actually made me really happy.
he didn't go get himself killed. And then D&D was fun. It was fun, but you know, we once again have somehow not gotten Joe and Rachel back into it for like all the weeks. Rachel was on vacation. We knew about that. Joe had his car accident. He's still recovering. I did hear from him then. Good news. He's alive. It's just that with his bad feeling, he's had an awful sleep schedule and just has not.
That makes sense.
So I think he technically woke up like 20 minutes ago.
Well, so, it's good that he's alive and theoretically recovering. So that's definitely a plus.
Yes. As a giant of a man who often has bad muscle and bone issues, to get into an accident that doesn't cause him major injuries other than muscle and bone issues.
More of the same. It's
more the same, but worse. You know, it's like, poor man. Please recover soon. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you know, but still been fun time. I managed to somehow get them not to get themselves killed because they're really tricky. They try to get to fight with things that they really needed a 4th/5th character for, and there's 3 of them. So
sounds like us with the ballet black ghost, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yes, I think I know what you're talking about there. Ballet black ghost.
Dark Spirit Dancer.
Oh, Black Spiral Dancer. Oh my god.
Black Spiral Dancer.
None of you want to fight a werewolf. Sorry, starting vampires. Even because I get the generation bonus is nothing. That is a tiny bonus. But starting vampires versus starting werewolf is no contest. Because I keep telling you, vampires are, you know, like trickery machines. Werewolves are combat machines. They murder stuff for a living. They are combat beasts. Out of all of the White Wolf things, you do not want to fight one of those, even starting. And that Black Spiral is probably not a starting character. It's probably got a little bit more stuff to it, you know? A little more experience.
Yeah, so run away.
Yeah, even if you had Silver Weapon to fight it, that would mean you would be target torn apart first, then the other characters. You might.
Why do you think I gave the dagger to the girl?
Because she might be able to last a couple rounds with it.
Actually, I
Maybe.
might be able to last a couple of rounds. I just wouldn't be able to do any damage.
No. Fortitude is your saving grace, basically. Anyway. So,
Yeah.
it was fun time on the role-playing games. And then our final segment, of course, for today is usually Consult the Table, which if someone asks, which rarely I get a question, but occasionally someone wishes to ask a question of the table, which is anything, which I say can be about anything. It's about tabletop in general, RPGs, Magic, any other CCG, a tabletop game. If you want to ask us about movies and television, knock yourself out. We'll answer questions about it. You know, just nerdy crap in general. Knock yourself out. And you can, of course, also throw those questions to my Discord, to me or any of my fellow hosts on Twitter, to the email address, discussingtabletop@yahoo.com, or in the comments of a Discussing Tabletop video, which I must apologize. I've noticed I haven't uploaded a Discussing Tabletop to YouTube in a couple of episodes. So I will try to get them out this week sporadically, so at least then they're not all out in one day. And then they're all out. So, you're welcome.
So do you have a question today?
I don't think I do.
Okay, well, I have a question.
Sure.
How far are you willing to go for a convention?
Ooh. The farthest I've gone was PAX South, because I'm in Pennsylvania, around Philadelphia, and that's at San Antonio, Texas. I would love to go back to PAX South again. That was really fun. It was a great time. I do not know if I can afford it this year. Fortunately, the tickets usually don't sell out until, like, end of the year kind of thing, so if I could somehow get together, like, $500 and not spend it all at PAX Unplugged, because I actually have a portion of that right now. And I would love to go if I could also get someone else to go with me, because that would make things cheaper. Not the plane ride. Plane ride I know is expensive. But, like, the hotel.
The hotel. Yep.
I ended up at a hotel that I had to walk from. It was an okay hotel, and it was kind of on the border of the parts of town which aren't so good and the nice part of town. So I kind of got a little bit of it, but it was like this walk from this little hotel that I walked by this park. So it was like, you know, open, like, so police kind of hung around the park a little bit too, because, you know, it wasn't a huge park, but, you know, want to keep, you know, deals and stuff out of that. And then I started getting into actual nice city parts. So it wasn't a bad walk to the convention center. It was still like a mile walk to the convention center every day, because that was the most affordable hotel that I could go to on a single person at the time.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yes. So
the farthest I've gone was to KOLCon in Phoenix, Arizona one year, which was blast, but I haven't been playing nearly as much Kingdom of Loathing recently.
Yeah.
And by recently, I mean in the last, like, 10 years.
Well, like, I would love to go to Gen Con. Like, things like Gen Con, Dragon Con, I know are big, more tabletop conventions. I'd love to go to them. I'm definitely
Dragon Con is Georgia, right?
I think, yeah, Dragon Con's in Georgia. That's more drivable than Texas is the thing. Because I had discussed carpooling down with people to Texas if I had a couple, like, at least one other person. Because it's still cheaper with two people than plane ride.
Oh yeah.
But it's like a with stops for food. We estimated it was like 24-hour drive. With all the stops for food. So it's like definitely you were going to have to take turns. Georgia is much more doable, you know?
Yeah. That's straight down the coast.
Straight down the coast. You're not going halfway across the nation also.
Yeah.
And I think
Have
Gen
you heard
Cons-
of Winter Fantasy?
Winter Fantasy. I haven't heard of that one.
That is in Indiana.
Mm.
It's in Fort Wayne, I want to say.
Okay.
And it's a smaller board gaming and RPG convention, but a bunch of like designers and developers go there. And I've been 1 year, and I think I'm going to try and go back again this coming winter because they're in February. And that was where I first played Shadows of the Demon Lord with Robert Schwalb, the designer.
Well, like,
And
I had a great time at PAX Unplugged. I talked to a lot of people, but the problem is I was unable to keep up with the connections with those people because some things happened to me in my personal life that I lost a lot of time right after the convention. So it was like a couple of weeks after that, and then it became hard to like email these people. Like it started getting harder, and then weeks passed and it became hard. And I was like, I so regret that I was unable to like send out emails to people early on after that. But it ended up I couldn't, and it sucked. And I would have hoped that I would have had a lot more connections with people, you know, that I could have been talking with them as more guests and stuff. But
yeah,
I mean, with the weird time that Discussing Tabletop has had over the past couple of months, because things went terrible for Worm, which he has put out on his Discord what kind of happened with him, so I could talk about it. He went to a very dark place for a little bit. He didn't go as far as doing something bad to himself, but he thought about it. And so he's trying to take some time to himself and fix himself, you know, a little bit, which is good. Mental health.
Yeah.
And then Joe has been pretty good, except for his accident now. So, I mean...
Yeah.
So, but it's not been the same for like a
Sure.
couple of months now. So, I've been thinking about doing stuff for the show to fix it, but that's an entirely different thing. But thank you for being on, though. It's been fun.
Of course.
We got to talk about some cool stuff and plan out some awesome things. I want that 450 so to get a giant dragon skull that's like doing fish songs and spouting, you know, green flame. I really want that now. That'd be awesome.
Fog acidic clouds.
Like green acidic clouds on everyone. That it all activates together. You know, when it starts singing, it also spits out.
Oh man, that would be so cool. Like you could have it trigger off of movement and have it like have a laser pointer motion sensor aimed at like a specific square on the board, and whenever somebody moves into that square, the cloud comes out and it starts singing. And oh man. I could see that being a really cool dungeon if you had like a bunch of different motion sensors aimed at different squares.
Man. Yeah, man.
This is way more work than I'm willing to do.
I know the feeling. I know the feeling.
But it would be so cool if somebody did it.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, CarpeDM, for joining me today. Where can people find you?
People can find me mostly on Twitter at the CarpeDM. They can also find me here on Tuesdays for Vampire as Nathan the prick. The rich, very helpful prick.
Yes. He's good to have around, but he kind of is a jerk.
Yeah. I mean, he's helpful, though.
He's helpful, though, yeah. He's good to his friends?
He's good to those who are helpful.
Yes. There you go. Because I forgot Samuel fell out of the building. I did. I don't know how I forgot that. But we were talking about, this week about last week. I'm like, oh yeah, I fell out of the building.
Yup.
Oh my god. So, Vampire is a really fun time. I recommend you checking it out. The VODs, I've been doing it that I've been putting VODs for shows up like the day of the new episode, but I'm going to try to get them out actually a lot quicker. So, expect Vampire out maybe tomorrow, maybe I'll try to get it out. I'll try to get out some stuff from Tabletop Simulator on my YouTube channel that people might have missed today, Vampire tomorrow, and maybe then like D&D on Monday or something. And then I'll start throwing some Discussing Tabletops out for one a day. You know, and maybe I'll finally catch up with stuff on YouTube, because I've been awful on YouTube for like a month or two. I got my own funk, you know. But anyway, so thank you for joining us today. Hopefully CarpeDM can join me again sometime, and hopefully we'll have Worm and Joe back sometime soon. But, you know.
Indeed.
Yes. So, have a good one.